The strong number is pretty much a reflection of pent-up demand. Can that momentum be built in the coming quarters?
Yeah, thank you for getting me onto the channel. It's great to be speaking to you. We've had a fabulous quarter on the backdrop of a great festive season which has been there. But what we feel is that going ahead, possibly it is something which we can sustain in a very strong manner because the consumer sentiment looks very, very positive. With the news of the vaccine coming, we see more people entering shops and entering markets to that extent. We also see the resurgence of the urban markets which were down in the Q2 to that extent, and that is something which is a strong phenomena which is coming across, coupled with the fact that the construction segment and the housing sector is also looking up on the backdrop of great government support and low interest rates. So I think all these augur very well for the coming quarter, and we are quite hopeful that going forward we would kind of maintain the trajectory of double-digit growths as we kind of go forward.
But Amit, some analysts are pointing to rising input costs as a risk. I mean, take into consideration rising oil prices. How will that play out, and how will you protect your profit margins?
Yes, I think the raw material has been quite inflationary, and we see as crude is going up, a lot of paint-related raw materials, whether it is crude derivatives or pigments or monomers, I think they are all kind of going northwards. So given the trajectory there is that we need to kind of look very, very strongly in terms of how we look at our bottom line in terms of going ahead. There are a series of measures in terms of what we are taking. One, we are looking at selling more high-end premium luxury products so that our product mix kind of goes better in terms of what we are looking at going forward. We are looking at a huge amount of formulation efficiencies and sourcing efficiencies which are on way from Q2 onwards, and we are giving it a boost coming in Q4. In addition, we are looking at cost efficiencies coming in our overall operation. So given the fact that we do have a large control in terms of the overall sourcing which we do, I think we are looking at ways and means in terms of we can control this inflation. Having said that, if the inflation doesn't really stabilize, we will look at taking a price increase in the market if it really kind of continues to grow and becomes unbearable with respect to sustaining the margins.
Now, it's not just you that's obviously looking at this sector, and you are, of course, the leader, and the fortunes and treasures to be made within the paints business. The flagship company, Birla, so we're talking Grasim Industries here, I believe is planning to put in capex around $700 million, that's US dollars, over the next 3 years. How do you plan to fend off competition from them and obviously stay on top?
See, in India, what we have seen is that for the last 2 decades, we have all the multinationals coming in India, whether it is Sherwin-Williams, whether it is AkzoNobel, whether it is companies like Jotun and Nippon and so on and so forth. And we've had a large foray of all of them coming into India in a very, very big way. We also have close to about 100 manufacturers of paint in India, which are small scale to medium scale to that extent. And therefore, what we feel that the competition is always very, very strong and thriving in India to that extent. We've also seen a spate of infrastructure companies getting into the paint business, given the fact that they see similarity with respect to some of the distribution and marketing kind of strategies in terms of their own business. However, as a leader, we are really kind of committed to growing the market in a very, very big way. Our strategies are very clearly based in terms of increasing the per capita business in India of consumption. Because in India, if you compare with the world economies, the per capita consumption is still very, very low. And we feel that there is a big opportunity in terms of really growing that consumption and really upgrading the market in a very, very strong way. Our strategies are aligned in terms of looking at large oceans of upgradation, which are still there in the market, and a large unorganized market, which is there to that extent. And therefore, we feel that today, we don't really feel the pressure in terms of all these people entering in the last 2 decades in the country. And we feel that despite the fact that they've entered the country, even in a period of 10 years, they have been not able to cross even a sales of about 100 million US to that extent. So we feel that today it's not easy to enter the market. It's not something which is so easy to kind of get into the large distribution which is there and look at really gaining the emotional connect with the consumer as far as the paint brand is concerned. We also think that the only route to this cannot be poaching on people and guerrilla tactics. You need to kind of make the brand, and you really want to make the brand emotionally connect with the consumer in a long way.
It doesn't seem you're very worried about competition. What would you put that down to, your dominant position? Is that your distribution network, and what do you plan about distribution moving forward? Because frankly, I'm sure you've been told this paint, there's a billion colors of paint, but the product is not it's not a product that can be differentiated a lot with your competition. So can you expand a little bit more? What makes you think you can stay on top of this?
Okay, so Asian Paints has had leadership in India since 1967, and we have been kind of really looking at making Asian Paints as a very, very strong brand which connects with the consumer. So as you said, while there is some differentiation technologically you can bring into the product, but what really ticks is the emotional connect with the consumer. And today we feel that as far as the home space goes, I think we have a very, very strong connect with the consumer. In fact, we speak of a mind share of almost about 85% for Asian Paints, which is a staggering share in terms of what we see, which means that almost 8 to 8.5 customers out of 10 entering a shop will think of buying Asian Paints first. So I think our lookout has been very strongly building the brand, looking at keep on connecting with the consumer, looking at what the consumer is really wanting, and therefore giving the consumer in a manner that the consumer would really kind of talk of getting a lot of delight in terms of all our offerings. Other than that, yes, as you rightly mentioned, we really kind of embark the latest technologies. We were the first ones to get on to SAP systems, and we have the latest I2 forecasting systems and so on and so forth. So distribution and technology are very, very strong backbones, which really kind of give us a framework in terms of looking at forecasting, looking at reaching out to the consumer. And therefore, from a supply chain strengths, from a manufacturing strengths, we are able to cater to even the customer who's in the village, looking at in terms of consuming the paint and bringing joy to his or her life.
Amit, within the South Asian market, you're doing well in India, you're doing well in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, but not so in Nepal. Why is that? And what's the strategy to perhaps grow that market more?
See, we have been market share leaders in Nepal for quite some years, and we have been growing in that market in the previous years. The last year is a bit of an aberration given the fact that we had extended lockdowns in the country. And given the fact that there was a little bit of a political uncertainty and the economy was not doing well, I think it has taken a real kind of toll with respect to housing and construction going ahead. But however, we see in Q3, we have kind of rebounded back in Nepal in a very, very strong way. And we are very clear that given our strength, given the reach which we have, given the product mix and the technologies which we have, we would kind of rebound in a very strong way and looking at a very strong next quarter and the year ahead in terms of going ahead.